More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Storytellers Campfire. This is Rich Gehlhausen hosting for our Campfire-Musicians segment, in which we feature musicians, singers, songwriters, and bands of all music categories. Tonight, musician, singer, and songwriter Matthew-Sabatella will be making a guest appearance at the campfire. But before tonight's presentation, just a reminder to our listeners to learn more about the Storytellers Campfire radio show and submissions. Just visit us online at www.storytellerscampfire.org. Now we'll take a short commercial break and be right back.
Practical Polly Radio. I've switched to cooking with healthier oils. So now what do I do with all these tubs of lard? Skinny jeans feeling too tight? A bit of lard on your hips and thighs and those pants slide on like a dream. So there's no need for that lard to go to waste. But get your best heart-healthy trade-up with healthier oils like canola, olive, or other vegetable oils, which can actually lower your chances for heart disease. Learn more at heart.org/FaceTheFats. Canola Info is the national supporter of the American Heart Association's Face the Fats campaign.
Welcome back to Storytellers Campfire in Progress. I'm your host, Rich Gehlhausen. Well, we're very pleased to have as our guest this evening musician, singer, songwriter, and leader of the Rambling String Band, Matthew-Sabatella. Hello, Matthew, and welcome to our Global Campfire.
Hi, Rich. Thanks a lot for having me here. It's a pleasure to sit around the campfire with you.
Oh, thanks. It's our pleasure to have you, too. We've got three music selections from your several of your albums that we're going to play during the course of our program today. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get your start in music?
Well, I started in music probably in around second grade. I started taking piano lessons, and but really, music hit me in a big way, I guess, when I discovered the Beatles, probably in sixth, seventh grade. So then I got really interested in music and started playing other instruments, electric bass and guitar and singing, and formed a band with my friends playing kind of Beatles and classic rock, 60s and 70s music. And, that carried me on through college and beyond. I was mainly just into pop and rock, and I was a singer-songwriter playing in bands. It wasn't until I wasn't doing the music I do now. Now I do mainly traditional American folk music and American heritage music. Mm-hmm. And I really became interested in that when I found a CD set called The Anthology of American Folk Music, mm-hmm. which was a CD re-release of a record set that was released in 1952 originally from Folkways Records. And it actually, when it was released on record in the 50s, it was one of the big inspirations for the folk music revival of the 50s and 60s. And this set was a collection of 78 RPM records that were recorded in the 1920s and 1930s, but the songs themselves went back far earlier. Like some of them were from 100 years earlier, or 200 years, or 300 years. This was the music of America. It was ancient ballads that had come here from the British Isles, and fiddle tunes and blues songs and spirituals and folk songs. And yeah, that was a major epiphany to me, because not only was it the music, but it opened my eyes to the story of the United States. I hadn't really been that interested in history before, in U.S. history or studying history at all. But once I started finding these songs and reading about them and understanding, that the people who came here bringing their song traditions and the way those songs changed as people moved around the country and had new experiences, well, that set me on the path on which I am currently traveling.
Mm-hmm. Well, your first album, Ballad of America Volume 1, Over the Wide and Fruitful Land, you actually did that before the band formed. You called the other band members that helped with that album as guest musicians?
Yeah, I guess at that time, once I started digging into this body of folk songs, I started getting used folk music books. I was finding books that had been of folk songs collected by John and Alan Lomax and others, and they were publishing the stories, the background information, as well as the songs. Mm-hmm. So I started learning these songs and doing live shows where I'd tell the stories behind the songs, and I would sequence them together to tell cohesive stories. Like my first show was called The Long Drive, and it was all about the cattle drives. But then after a while of doing this, I was just doing it by myself with acoustic guitar. I decided it was time to record a CD, and so I did it myself and invited guest musicians to add their parts on fiddle and some banjo, some other parts. But we ended up with Ballad of America Volume 1, which are all songs that tell the story of our westward expansion across the continent.
Mm-hmm. Volume 1, Over the Wide and Fruitful Land. Now, we have a selection that we've made from that album, Wisconsin Immigrant. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What's the history behind that song?
Sure. Well, that's one of the first songs I found in a book that really excited me. The lyrics are just so evocative of the time and what people were going through, families, as they thought about moving west. I found it in a book, and I've never even heard another recording of it. I just learned it from the book. But it came from sometime after the War of 1812, as land in New England was becoming more crowded and expensive, and the soil wasn't great for farming. So this song is actually a conversation between a husband and wife debating whether or not to move west to Wisconsin in particular, to start over there. The husband really is hearing about these great opportunities for land and farming, wants to move west, and the wife wants to stay put. So they debated in this song.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's go ahead and play that song. We'll talk about it very briefly afterwards, but let's go ahead and play the song Wisconsin Immigrant.
Since times are so hard, I've thought my true heart of leaving my ox and my plow and my cart, and away to Wisconsin a journey we'll go, to double our fortune as other folks do, while here I must labor each day in the field, and the winter consumes all the summer doth yield. Oh, husband, I've noticed with a sorrowful heart, you've neglected your oxen, your plow, and your cart. Your sheep are disordered, at random they run, and your new Sunday suit is now every day on. Oh, stay on the farm and you'll suffer no loss, for the stone that keeps rolling will gather no moss. Oh, wife, let's go oh, don't let us wait. Oh, I long to be there, I long to be great. While you some rich lady, and who knows but I, some governor maybe, before that I die. While here I must labor each day in the field, and the winter consumes all the summer doth yield. Oh, husband, remember that land is to clear, which will cost you the labor of many a year. Where horses, sheep, cattle, and hogs are to buy, and you'll scarcely get settled before you must die. Oh, stay on the farm and you'll suffer no loss, for the stone that keeps rolling will gather no moss. Oh, wife, let's go, oh, don't let us stay. I'll buy me a farm that is cleared by the way, where horses, sheep, cattle, and hogs are not dear, and we'll feast on fat buffalo half of the year. While here I must labor each day in the field, and the winter consumes all the summer doth yield. Oh, husband, remember that land of delight is surrounded by Indians who murder by night. Your house they will plunder and burn to the ground, while your wife and your children lie murdered around. Oh, stay on the farm and you'll suffer no loss, for the stone that keeps rolling will gather no moss. Now, wife, you've convinced me, I'll argue no more. I never had thought of your dying before. I love my dear children, although they are small, but you, my dear wife, are more precious than all. Oh, we'll stay on the farm and we'll suffer no loss, for the stone that keeps rolling will gather no moss. Oh, we'll stay on the farm and we'll suffer no loss, for the stone that keeps rolling will gather no moss.
Oh, Matthew, that was very well done. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a great song.
Yeah, the song really tells the a story, the debate between the husband and wife, almost as if like for example, like nowadays a person like changing jobs, perhaps one loses a job and to moving into another state, debate a husband and wife might have. It's I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah,
now,
thank you.
Matthew, tell me, how did your band start? Give us a background here about the formation of the band.
All right.
Ramblin' String Band.
Well, as we were recording this first CD, Volume 1, I was bringing in guest musicians to play on the songs. One guy was Lynn Griffith, who played banjo there. He and I were actually playing together sometime before the start of recording the CD. But I started bringing in an old friend of mine, Chris DeAngelis, to play bass, and other musicians.